In today's video, we are going to be talking about style brushes, and I'm going to give you few very simple actionable tips on how to work with them in a really creative way. Coming up. Hi everyone, my name is Kasia Zmokla. Welcome to my channel, where you will always find photo editing training and educational videos to help you grow as an artist and photographer. Today's video was requested by Mark, so he's asking, can you go over the style brushes again? As I've done one video on style brushes before, he is focusing on the particular style brush for the eyes. So this style brush is called Iris Enhance. So he's asking, is the style brush applied in this case to the layer? He's relating to another image that I have processed. So the answer is yes. We are going to go through applying the style brush, so you will see how it works in practice. But yes, always when you are using any style brush, it will automatically create new layer the same way as in case if you would be working with the spot healing brush tool. So this is exactly the same story. And Mark is asking further, is this one I could create? How are they different from the just standard styles for global color grading? So this is what we are going to cover today. I'm going to show you few really creative tips, because just the way the style brush is called, so for example we have style brushes like Deep Sky, Iris Enhance, they suggest let's talk about the Iris Enhance style brush. So the name suggests that you will use this style brush exclusively for portraits, but this is not the case. You can use the style brush on any image that you like, as long as you understand what this style brush is doing to your image. Before we jump into today's video, I have a quick announcement for you. Very recently, I have released a free masterclass in which I cover my workflow. Basically, I'm talking in detail about the 3 steps of my workflow in Capture One. So if you want to learn more about Capture One, if you want to know how to structure your work, check out the link down below under this video. The masterclass is completely free to join, no strings attached. Okay, so let's jump back to our image. I'm going to reveal the browser and I'm going to work on this image before I have applied any adjustment. So we have here just very subtle exposure correction. I haven't corrected anything complex here, so we can now jump over and start talking about style brushes and styles. So let's begin with explanation. What is the difference between the standard styles that you can purchase for Capture One and style brushes? So basically, if you want to apply a style to your image, you either have to find some of the free samples available online, or you can purchase styles from Capture One. My videos are not sponsored by Capture One. This is completely independent channel, so I can just say that yes, I am using styles and they are helpful in my workflow, but at the same time this is not a rocket science, and you can create your own styles the same as you can create your own style brushes. So let's focus for now on styles. I have this image, there is no color grading applied. If I just jump over and take a look at my color balance, nothing happened here. My color editor, nothing happened here. So I want to apply a style to this image. All I need to do is to jump over to my styles tab, and here I have to just open up custom styles, and here I have all the styles that I have purchased or created myself. And let's say for the sake of this image, I'm going to use one of the sample portrait styles, let's go for teal. So I can right click, this way I will be able to apply the style to new layer. If I jump back to my exposure tab, I have the new layer created, and here is the style applied to the whole image. So this, I would say, is the biggest differentiation, that when you are applying style, styles can differ a lot. So for example, this style corrects, let's say, what was done, nothing on levels. So there were a lot of adjustments with curves, RGB, Luma. The image was color graded with curves as well. We can see control points and adjustment on the individual curves for red, green and blue channel. Plus, if we jump over to our color tab and if we just take a look, nothing on basic, advanced, plenty of adjustments, skin tone, nothing. And if we take a look at the color balance, nothing for the master, but adjustments for shadow, midtone and highlight. So this means that this style applies a lot of adjustments in terms of color. So this is perfect style for color grading. It doesn't touch anything related to exposure. It doesn't touch HDR adjustments. We have no changes here after applying the style. So each style is different. You might have styles like this one that is, I would say, medium complex, because it has some quite advanced adjustments here with curves, plus it throws into the mix the color related tools. But you might have some styles that don't touch luminosity adjustments at all, because this style teal, it applies contrast on the RGB curve and it applies further luminosity adjustments, dimming highlights on the Luma curve. So this one applies luminosity adjustments on the curve, plus color grading on the curve, plus color grading on color related tools in Capture One, such as the advanced color editor and color balance. But you might have styles that don't touch at all luminosity adjustments, and you might have only very gentle adjustments with, let's say, color balance. So each style is different. This was really a long digression, but my point is the difference between the standard style and a style brush is that when you apply style, you want it to be applied typically over the whole image. So when you are searching for a style, you are basically hovering over different styles and you are observing how it affects the whole image. It is very important to have, before applying styles, before trying them out, to have luminosity adjustments in place. I've mentioned this a lot in my videos. There is no point to jump over and work on color if your image is still incorrect in terms of luminosity adjustment. So for example, if you have some clipped blacks, or if you have some white patches, if you have lost detail in the highlight. So this is important. I'm talking about this in the free masterclass. So the style you would apply typically to the whole image. However, if you want to be really creative, if you want to work in a really unconventional way, it is up to you. You can experiment. So here I have my style. If I hit M on my keyboard, this is the mask for this very layer. This is opaque mask and I can now experiment. Why not? So I can, let's say, grab my linear gradient and I can create a mask. So if I do this, this will mean that only where the mask is applied, I will have the style applied. So if I hit M, now we have the mask. My mask is blue for now. I've changed it from green when I was working on some other images, but let's stick with this for the moment. So this is my mask. It is covering more or less half of the image. Here we have 100% coverage, here we have 50, and here we have 0. So by applying mask to the style, I can control how the style will be applied over the image. I wouldn't do this randomly. I would apply this if I really had some creative idea behind this, if I really wanted to have colors affected in the image in certain areas and not affected colors in others. So let's not complicate this, let's keep it simple. When you are applying the standard Capture One styles, you will apply them over the whole image. Let's now talk about style brushes. So this is my style. I have chosen to apply to individual layers. I have chosen to create new layer, but I could just click on the style and it would be applied to the background. But creating layers and working with layers can really give you way more flexibility. You can switch on and off the layers and you can see what was done on particular layer. So let's now talk about style brush. So first of all, I can add it on top of this. So I have on this one my style and I would like to now enhance the eyes. So this is the brush that Mark was relating to, the brush for the eyes. So let's see. I'm in my exposure tab and I just need to jump over to my style brushes, and here is the style brush, Iris Enhance. So once I have grabbed the brush, I don't need to create new layer manually. Capture One will create this layer automatically for me, so I don't even have to think about this. Now when I have grabbed the brush, there are already settings that were saved for the particular brush. I'm relating now to the size and settings for flow, for opacity. So now Capture One offers you the possibility of linking brush with layer, and this has application here. So if you grab the Iris Enhance style brush that is available out of the box with Capture One 21, you will always have these settings. The size will be 40, hardness 25, opacity 100, flow 8. So I have taken the style brush. Let's now apply it over our image and let's see how it will affect the eyes. So now we are working in the conventional way, I would say. So let's again grab the Iris Enhance brush, and I'm going to first of all decrease size of the brush. I'm going to do this dynamically just with square brackets on my keyboard. So left square bracket decreases size of the brush, and let's just paint over. So as the name suggests, this is really important. Don't paint over the retina, don't paint over the whites. This is meant to be used over the iris. So if I hit M, this is the mask that I have created. So the flow is very low, 8. If I would like to have stronger impact on my image, I can paint over several times over the same place, so this will make it stronger. Obviously this is too much. I'm just doing this for the sake of this presentation. Let's just paint over the other eye. So you may now start guessing what is this style brush doing. So definitely it is pushing up contrast, it is adding saturation, so the eyes were definitely not that blue before. Okay, let's hit M. So now this is my mask for the eyes, and if I disable the mask, this is what happened when I have applied the style brush. So the difference is that the style will be applied typically over the whole image. And let's get rid of the linear gradient because I can see that it is still here. I forgot to remove it, so I'm just going to hit clear mask. Now no adjustments, no style applied because it is on an empty layer. Let's just go for fill mask. So now I have full mask and the style is applied over the whole image. The whole portrait is way more balanced. The blues of his jeans are aligned with the rest. So style you applied for the whole image, but style brush, this is something that you want to apply only in selected areas. So here I have my style brush for the eyes, Iris Enhance, and obviously this is way too much. Don't go that far. If you just apply too aggressively, you can always go down with opacity here. So I can fine-tune this. The best way is to just switch it off, take a look and just assess how the original image looked like, and after you've done this you can switch it on and As always, with this sort of adjustments, less is more. So definitely if I would go further, this is way too much. The image looks really fake. I have beautiful color grading thanks to the style applied before, but this enhancement, even though it targets such a little small area in the image, however crucial when you have portraits, the viewer's attention will always immediately go towards the eyes. This is ruining the whole image. So remember, less is more, and here I would definitely go no more than, I would say maybe 48, but this is already too strong. So let's go lower than this, and let's see again. So this is before and this is the after. So that's the scenario if I would be using style brush that is provided by Capture One. However, you don't have to upgrade Capture One. You don't have to do this to get the style brushes, because you can create your own. And for those of you who have some experience with creating and saving your own styles, this is nothing really new, because this is basically the same thing. Once you create your own style, which you can do by just creating new field adjustment layer, applying set of adjustments and saving it as a style. So if I would create this layer myself, if I would apply the adjustments on curves, if I would have applied manually the adjustments with the color editor, I can then just right click and select Save Adjustments as Style. And this is it. This is how you create your own styles. The important thing to mention though is that you can create a style from adjustments applied to only one layer. If I would be working with more layers, if I would have all my adjustments in stack, if I had 3, 4, 5 or more layers, I can't sort of compress them and save as one style. This is not possible. If you have the intention of creating your own style, you have to apply all the adjustments only on one layer, and then you have the possibility of creating your own style. And exactly the same scenario applies if you want to create your own style brush. So we've been already briefly looking at what was involved to create the teal style. Let's now take a look. I'm going to get rid of this one. Let's now take a look what was involved to create this effect and to create the style brush iris enhance. So we can take a preview before and after, and let's now jump over to the exposure tab and let's just scroll down and check. So first we can see there is a massive adjustment with exposure tab. Contrast was pushed from 0 to 30, so this is before, this is the after. I can maybe go a little bit higher now here, just for the sake of presentation. Don't get me wrong, I would never save my image with such a strong adjustment for the eye. So I have now 58, and now we will see this a little bit better. So contrast was pushed, this is before, this is the after, and this darkens the eyes. So before they were softer, brighter, now the contrast is stronger, but there was massive adjustment with the HDR tool with shadow, and this is opening up the color. So this is bringing up all the details that are within the mask. So contrast would darken, shadow will always brighten, it will lift up the shadows, it will bring more details, it will reveal more detail, and saturation was pushed as well. This was very, very strongly visible, especially here in this highlight. So if I just press temporarily on the word saturation, this will zero out. I'm holding the mouse, and now if I just release, this is the after. So this creates quite a strong difference. Let's see what happened next. If I now scroll down, we can see clarity. This is a massive adjustment, massive shift from 0 to 60. They didn't go for punch. Punch would be adding even more saturation to the colors. They took a bit more safe path, I would say. They went for classic method, but such a huge adjustment is definitely making big impact. So clarity, this is before and this is the after. Remember that I have opacity of this layer set to 58. Let's go for 100 and let me show you again before and after. So clarity, this is really important element of this mix, the same as shadows. So before and after. Let's scroll further. So no adjustment on levels and nothing on the haze. If we take a look at curves, no adjustments here. So to me it looks that this is all that was done to create this style brush. Let's take a look at color editor. Nothing. So whenever you are creating style or whenever you are creating style brush, unless you have some maybe specific shoot, specific photo session in mind, you would typically avoid creating style brush for eyes enhancements. You would typically avoid throwing into the mix and adjustments with colors, because you want the brush to be as versatile as possible. So by this I mean you don't know if you will be working on an image of a person with blue eyes or brown eyes or black eyes or whatever. So if you would make specifically a style brush that targets iris enhance and it deepens the blue color, it creates a bit of a shift. Let's say if I would decide to maybe add to the midtones a bit of cyan, this wouldn't work for brown eyes or black eyes. So if you would like to specialize that strongly, you might have 5 different style brushes. One would be for blue eyes, one for green, one for brown eyes. If this is what you do, why not? You are free to create your own style brushes as long as they are useful and as long as creating them doesn't take more time than the actual editing and applying them. Because I'm happy with the style brushes. I use them. I find them quite sufficient in certain areas, but if I wouldn't have them, I wouldn't be crying. So I'm always saying that the most important thing is to understand what is happening under the hood and to basically have the ability of creating these adjustments manually. And let's do just that. So if we just jump back again to our exposure tab, we can see here that contrast. I will try to memorize it more or less. So it applies adjustment on contrast, saturation, and lifts shadows plus clarity. So this is it. I can just switch it off. Let's zoom in and I'm just going to apply these adjustments. Let's maybe paint in a mask first, or maybe, okay, let's do something a little bit more advanced. I'm going to go for create new empty adjustment layer, and I'm going to just copy mask from the previous layer so I don't have to do this again. So copy mask from previous layer, iris enhance. If I now press M, I have just mask. The adjustments were not copied, so this was not the point. So I have the mask, and let's try to, let's say, recreate the brush. So what was the contrast? So I'm going to push the contrast towards something around 30. I'm going to push saturation. I'm going to lift up my shadows. So something I would say around here, and I'm going to push clarity. So, okay, let's go for strong value as well. And that way I would say I have copied the style brush that was created by Capture One. So as I've said before, this is not a rocket science. You can create your own style brushes. You can get as creative as you want. So if you have in mind something else, let's say, if you would like to create a style brush that will make the freckles stronger, you can do this as long as you know which adjustments to apply that will make the skin texture and the color variation in case of freckles basically more strong. So on this very layer, we have created our style brush for the eyes. So this is the adjustment. And as I've mentioned before, we are free now to save the style brush. So we can right click and select Save Adjustment as a style. So if I save it as a style and then if I apply, it will be applied by default to the whole image, to the whole layer, or you can save this adjustment as style brush, so then I will have the possibility of painting in the adjustment. And before I do this, I want to set the size of my brush and the other settings, because it can be really helpful when working with this tool. So all I need to do is to just hit B. I have accessed the brush, and let's say, just for the sake of experiment, I want to see if this will be applied. I want to save size of the brush at 658, hardness 25. Let's leave it as it is, and let's maybe go for higher flow. Okay, so these are my settings, and now I just want to right click on it and select Save Adjustment as Style Brush. So here at this stage, I can still confirm which adjustments I want to have included in this style brush. So for example, I might say, no, I don't want to have the clarity. I can just untick it, but let's just keep it there. So I'm going to save. So this will automatically point to the folder where the style brushes are saved. Let's just save another test. So this is my new style brush. Let's just go for neutral cursor. Let's switch this off and let's test it out. So let's say I want to now enhance the eyes with my own created style brush. So let's go and check here. So in my custom style brushes, this is the style brush that we've just created. So I'm just going to experiment and apply it to my image. So you can see now just the middle of the cursor, but the brush is massive. Remember that we've saved it at a really large size just to see if this will be remembered. So if I just paint over, this is my style brush that I have created, inspired by the Iris Enhance style brush by Capture One. So let's remove this, and I'm just going to zoom in. So for the sake of this image, obviously size of this brush is way too large. So let's grab it again. I'm going to right click, and I always have the possibility of adjusting the size. So I'm going to go for small size. The rest I would say is fine. Let's maybe decrease the flow a bit, and now I can just paint over the eyes. I'm going to just change my mouse for the pen, so I will be a bit more precise. And you can see that when I started painting with the style brush, Capture One automatically created new layer that is called with the name that I have given to the style brush, which is Test. So I'm just painting over the eyes, and that way I have applied my own adjustment, saved as style brush, and this is basically copying the adjustment that Capture One created for their style brush called Iris Enhance. So this is all the secret to style brushes. You are free to be inspired by the styles and style brushes created by Capture One. And really the easiest way is to get some styles. You can purchase them or you can download. The important thing is that you want to get some really good styles. You don't want something that was created by people who have no idea how to create styles, and you will just get some clashing colors, and instead of improving the image, you will get in trouble. You will be pushing the adjustments way too far. So when good styles are created, the people who create them take in consideration many different images before the style is packed and sold. They are testing the styles at many genres, many different images, just to make sure that this is not the style that serves only one image and for the rest it is useless. So it is very important. So let's now go a bit lower. It annoys me to see how fake it looks Something like this, I would say, is sufficient. So with this image, I have shown you how you can work with style brushes, what is the difference between traditional standard Capture One style and Capture One style brush. We've been working with the Iris Enhance style brush in a typical way. Before we jump to the next image, I want to show you another way that you can apply the Iris Enhance style brush in a portrait. So I like being creative, I like experimenting. Okay, let's just get rid of this one and let's just remove this one. I like experimenting, I like finding new ways of using certain tools. So one time when I was retouching, when I was editing a portrait image, I was working with the Iris Enhance style brush, and I've decided, let's see, because it is lifting up shadows, it is adding a bit of contrast. Let's see if it would give me some good results similar to dodging. So whenever I'm working on an image like this, I would always touch up a bit of the eyes, and it is just asking, in my opinion, of just bringing a bit more light here around the eye. So I can do this with dodging by creating the layers manually. I can as well use the style brush that is available here in light and contrast. So I could go for dodge, brighten, but it would require more clicks. And I already had selected the Iris Enhance brush. I've just finished working on the eyes, and I was just curious how it will affect the skin. So let's see. First of all, I want to decrease the flow, because now I'm going to try to apply a bit of this adjustment around the eyes and here under the brow. So I'm going to decrease the flow. I'm going to go as low as 2, and let's go for slightly larger size. So having this changed, I have just adjusted the settings. I can now paint over under the brow, and this will introduce some extra light to the image. If I now hit M, this will display my mask. So I've been working previously with higher flow. I've made few passes over the iris, and that's why the mask is dense. Here I'm working with way smaller flow, just 2, and I'm just touching it up very, very lightly. I just want to enhance the light. So if I just switch it off before and after, so the adjustment is very, very subtle. Remember that we have the opacity decreased to 39. If I would go higher here, the light would be stronger. So now, because I have the opacity lowered, I can maybe go for slightly higher value here. Let's try at 4. So now I'm going to decrease size of the brush and go over this part of the eye here. Remember, very important, don't overdo this. So this is already too aggressive. I'm going just to go for Command Z to remove this. And if I check my mask, I have a bit of this adjustment applied. So if I now zoom out, and if I go for higher size brush, I can very lightly paint over the cheekbones. Remember, we are pushing contrast, so there will be some enhanced saturation in the colors. So be very, very careful when you are doing this. But I just wanted to show you that you can use the brush to apply a little bit of dodging. So I would typically do this with editing black and white images, so that way you can just paint over the areas where you have already some highlights, where you have already some brighter areas present, and you can enhance them. Never use this sort of adjustment on dark areas. So you don't want to introduce any fake light, any unnatural shifts. So you can work that way. I think I'm done when it comes to this image. I'm just going to now quickly show you how you can work with this style brush with landscape images. So let's now just quickly take a look. This is the mask, so I have it on over the fingers, I have it over the eyes, and if I switch it off, So this is before the adjustments, and if I bring it back, there is more light, the image is more three-dimensional, the fingers are not as flat as they were before, and I've done this just in a few seconds. So you can use the Iris Enhance style brush that way, and you can use either the style brush that is available with Capture One 21, or you can create your own because you have the freedom to do so. And by the way, if you are getting value from my videos, if you are enjoying this channel, I would be really happy if you subscribe, if you leave me a like, and if you leave me a comment. Still, I'm replying to every single comment under my YouTube videos. I'm super curious your feedback, and you can see that I'm actually replying to video requests, as I've done in case of this video. I've made the video for Mark, who wanted to know more about style brushes. I hope he will be happy with the video. Okay, so let's continue. So let's now take a look at a different image. Let's take a look at this seascape. So here I have exactly the same situation as in case of the portrait. This was my original image. This is before applying any adjustments, and I have applied style. So this is color grading the image, it is applying luminosity adjustments. But what I want to show you is that you can experiment with the style brushes, and actually I found that the Iris Enhanced style brush can be used in many different scenarios, as it is pushing contrast, it is bringing clarity. So I've applied it here over this image. So the original settings are not really applicable for this. I'm going to go for way bigger size. I'm going to leave the rest as it was. So I don't need to create new adjustment layer. Capture One will do this automatically for me. So let's just grab the brush and paint over this wave, the dark part in the wave. So as you can see, this really enriches this part of the image. I have a bit more of saturation here inside the wave, so we got this beige yellowy tone. Let's just see before and after. So this is before, this is the after. If I zoom out and if I just take a look at the mask, so the mask is very subtle. I can go a bit stronger over this, so let's just go for Iris Enhance again, and let's paint a little bit more, the same as we've done in case of the previous image, and we can always go down with the opacity value for the very layer. So when you are working that way, you can really bring out some of the elements in the image that you want to put the emphasis on. So before I have applied the style, and as you remember, if I just go for M mask, this is the preview of my mask, style is typically 99% unless you want to experiment. It is applied to the whole image. So it affects all the colors, it affects luminosity adjustments equally over the whole image. But if I decide that I want to make the boat a little bit stronger, if I want to draw the viewer's attention more intensely towards this object, I can decide why not to enrich this part, why not to bring up some clarity, some color. And you can really experiment. So I've done this with the style brush that was meant to be used on a portrait. So let's see, this is before the adjustments and this is the after. So it applies all those tools, all these adjustments that have created the tool at one go, and this can be done in a really targeted way. So now I can zoom in and I can really fine-tune this. If I would like to have a little bit more color over the boat, I can still go for the brush. I can reduce the size and I can paint over these elements. However, I don't think this is needed because the boat, in my opinion, looked better in the sort of silverish tone. So I'm going to go for Command Z to get rid of the stronger color over those, I don't know, plastic boxes. And I would like to still get a little bit more contrast, a little bit more color here over the wave. On the other hand, don't overdo this. You don't want to have some strong color out of the sudden visible in selected area of your image. It's going to be looking fake if you have in comparison other areas in your image that were not treated that way. So try to remember about this, and you can always use eraser, so it's not a problem if you get a bit too strong color. So over these splashing waves I have painted as well. This is my mask, very lightly, but whenever you are applying clarity adjustments, you are adding contrast to the midtone. So here I will have way more structure, way more contrast. So this is after applying my adjustment, and if I switch this off, this is before. So my intention is to encourage you to use these style brushes and to play with them, especially that they are meant to be used, I think, by users who find Capture One a little bit too overwhelming, and just grabbing a brush, painting over and getting immediate result is really something that can encourage them to dive deeper and learn more about the software. So experiment, why not? All these tools are for you to use, and since they are available, I think we should all use them, experiment, and then decide if they are working for us or not. So let's see. So this will be the image before applying the style and before applying the iris enhancement. This is the original image and this is the image after. Let's now jump quickly over to this shot of the desert. So here I have another example, exactly the same story. I've just applied a style, in this case the Blue Ridge. So this is the original image and this is the image after applying the style. And now I'm going to try to apply my iris enhance brush over the sun. So I hope Mark will be happy. We have covered the style brush for the eyes in 200%. So let's grab the brush, let's go for larger size, opacity high, flow quite low, perfect. So all I want to do here is to just go over these specific areas and try if I can enhance a bit of the texture. However, it was already done by the style, so as I've mentioned at the beginning of this video, the styles are different, so they are created by different people. Some of the photographers who are creating the styles and selling them, they might personally prefer more subtle adjustments, and there are others who, on the other hand, prefer really strong contrasty adjustments, and that style was created by a photographer who likes pushing images quite far. So adding on top of this style iris enhance, this is already too much. We can see that we are creating artifacts here. This is looking really bad. So experiment with the styles, but don't take it for granted that they are going to be working without you thinking and assessing the results. So I can go lower with opacity, so this will reduce, this will remove the artifacts, and I can go a bit stronger. And I would say in case of this image, this could benefit the image, but I would have to be way more precise with the mask. I would have to use smaller brush, but I'm not going to do this. I just wanted to show you this image as another example where you can play around with those style brushes and just show you one more style. Let's now quickly jump over to a different image. So far we've been talking about the iris enhanced style brush, and let's grab this one, and this time we are going to be working in a very conventional way because I will be working with the Deep Sky style brush. So again, as the name suggests, this style brush was meant to enhance the sky. So let's see. I have grabbed the brush. I'm going to go for larger size. We can see that the default adjustments, default settings are very strong, opacity 100, flow 100. Let's see. So I have the brush, I don't need to create layer. Capture One will take care of this for me. So I'm just going to paint over the sky. So 1 second, and really strong enhancement. I think it is benefiting the image really strongly. So let's very quickly see what is under the hood. So I have my brush selected. Let's just take a look. So exposure, it is bumping contrast, 14, high dynamic range. The highlights are pushed to -50, which means we are recovering detail in the highlight. I could go even lower because we have this bright cloud over here, and since we are pushing contrast, this will stretch the histogram and it will make the bright areas even brighter. And let's go and check the original version. So this is the original image. I had some detail here before. After applying these adjustments, I have lost the detail. So I would push it further and I would recover more detail in the highlight. This is not enough. I would create new field adjustment layer, and here I would work additionally. So I would go even further with recovering highlight in the detail. So obviously I should be looking at the whole image, not just when I was zoomed in to the cloud, but my point here is, and it is really important, I want to put emphasis on it, don't use the styles or style brushes just in a way that you take it out of the box, you paint over and you are done. You will get way more beautiful results if you will apply your own common sense, if you will be assessing your own images, and if you will be adding further adjustments to the style brushes. So treat them as a sort of base adjustment and tweak them from there. So certain parts you can make stronger, certain parts you can make less pronounced, but just make the style brush yours. And remember that once you make the adjustments, you can save the style brush under a different name, so you will have the style brush already fine-tuned by you. So we are now working with deep skies. So contrast, then in HDR, recovering highlight detail, pushing white. So this is making the cloud that bright. So I can click on this just a bit. This is the operation that is quite typically performed whenever you are recovering highlights and sort of dimming the highlights. It is quite a good idea to push white, so that way you will have very small areas in your image, but the areas will still have very strong brightness. This is to avoid sort of creating milky whites without having this intention. So this will, let's say, preserve the bright tones in your image. Again, very strong adjustment on clarity, on curves. There was nothing done, and if we just jump over and take a look at the color grading tools, we can see here that there were sampled two different tones of blue, dark and more pastel, brighter. So on the darker, the luminosity value was pushed towards the -44, so it means that in order to create stronger contrast, the dark blues will be further darkened. Let's see, before and after, and the brighter blues will be more saturated. There is no adjustment on lightness. Nothing here. If we take a look at the color balance, no. So with this style, we are not supposed to change the hue, we are not supposed to change the color. This is all done so we can create more contrast, we can get more interest in our sky. So again, before and after. So this is what is under the hood in the style brush deep sky. And here I would like to point one more thing. If I just hit M, this is my sloppy mask, and if you are working with a landscape image like this with straight horizon line, you can use what I've shown you in the first image, this one, portrait of Chris. We can now here introduce a linear gradient to have nice smooth transition, because this part here looks really bad when I just paint it very quickly. So all we need to do is to just have our layer selected where we've been painting with the style brush. Let's grab linear gradient and let's apply this adjustment. So I'm going to paint in from the top. Let's drop it around here, and I'm now going to move it downwards. Maybe let's just change this so the transition will be a little bit shorter. So something like this. I want to have the mountains included in the selection. So now let's quickly check the mask. So before I've been painting with the style brush, I've been manually painting the mask and manually applying the adjustment. Now I have the adjustment already in place and I have applied the linear gradient. So you can apply linear gradient, you can apply radial gradient, or you can even apply Luma masks if this serves the purpose that you are working towards. So again, without the mask preview, and I can push it a little bit lower. So again, this is before and this is after applying the adjustment. And to finish this video, I'm just going to paint over the foreground, over these little plants with the iris enhancement style brush. Let's see what happens. So I'm going to grab the iris enhance brush. Let's go for higher size and let's just paint over, not over the whole width, just more or less here in the middle. So with this, I want to bring up contrast. I want to make this part stronger visible. So here the adjustment is way too strong. Let's just reduce it. So let's go on a smaller value on my opacity layer, but I can fine-tune it, and I think that it is really beneficial, that it brings interest towards the middle part of the image. And I'm tempted to paint over the cloud. Why not? Let's see. So let's cover this one, and this is really the element that made me to ask my friend to stop the car and to take the picture, because I've noticed this when we were driving. The image was taken in Oman. I've noticed the shape, the sort of V shape visible here in the mountains, and this shape is replicated here with the cloud. So this is what made this image for me. And that's why I'm using the iris enhance brush to make it even stronger. So without the iris enhance style brush and with. And I think it works quite well. I might even say that I'm sort of creating new light pattern. I could say that there were really dynamic clouds, and I could say that I've managed to freeze the moment where there was light just passing quickly over the ground, strong wind, and the clouds just moving strong light. So this sort of contrast could be possible. Of course, it is not the case. It is not in the original image, but we have the freedom to enhance certain things and introduce the elements that we like, that we feel that will reflect the atmosphere, that will convey the atmosphere that was present for us in the scene when we've been taking the image. So now you know a lot about the iris enhance style brush. We've been working with the deep sky. If you want to learn more about Capture One style brushes, click the thumbnail and watch my other video that I've done before on style brushes. Thanks for watching. This was Kasia Zmokla from Digital Art Classes, and I will see you soon in the very next one.